Welcome to the SMO Podcast. My name is Whitney, and today I'll be asking each guest 7 questions in 7 minutes. Here is the first look of our guest that will be speaking live on our stage. Look below to see what you'll say differently. And here is our next episode.
Welcome, Amy. Welcome.
Hi, how are you, Whitney?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well, very well.
Yes. Welcome. Tell me, for everyone watching today, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Amy Danielson, and I am a wellness professional, a wellness leader. I've been in this industry for over 30 years now. My background started in dance, and it's taken me into all different types of movement modalities. So now I offer different types of coaching, different types of programs, cohorts, workshops, and retreats.
That's really interesting, especially about the part about dancing and now going into business. How do you tie that in together?
Yeah, it's two different worlds for sure. And it's a stretch for me sometimes in business because I am very much in my creative mind a lot. So to be able to switch gears into business, it's good for me. It's a good stretch, but it does take a different sort of focus. But I would say that my training in dance has actually prepared me for entrepreneurship, for being in business because of the nature of discipline and consistency and all the things that go into being in business. A lot of the habits that I've developed from a young age through dance are now serving me in business.
I love that you mentioned you're doing both the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
My question for you is, was there a moment where you almost quit but didn't, or maybe you second guessed yourself but were able to push through?
Yeah, I mean, many. I mean, if I could be radically honest, I woke up today with hitting a wall and I was like, I don't know, maybe there's a different path. And I turned that moment around by taking the reins into my own hands. I realized I needed a break. I went to the beach. I took 3 hours. I took a lunch and I was able to reset. And so these moments that we all have at certain points, especially when you're building something, especially when you're in really uncertain territory or there's just learning curves, right? There's a lot of growth happening. So I think that it's pretty natural to come up against moments where you wonder, like, is this what do I keep going? Do I keep moving with this? And in entrepreneurship, I think that comes up maybe more than for other people.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I would say, where do you feel most people stay stuck in this place, and why do you think that is in the space that they're in? Because often I feel like
Yeah,
we all we all have that moment where we doubt ourselves. But why
right.
do you think most people stay stuck in the space that they're in, or essentially the space that you're in, where other people might be stuck?
Right. I think that I've analyzed this for myself a lot. I've felt into it, I've thought about it, and I've done a lot of investigation learning, listened to other people around why and how do we get to this moment. I think one part of like why maybe people stay there is because that feeling of being stuck, that feeling of being frustrated, that feeling of like not knowing what to do, there's a little bit of like familiarity in that. So people get actually kind of maybe addicted is a little bit too strong of a word, but you get a bit attached to that. That's actually more your comfort zone. It's actually easier to lean into that side than leaning into the growth or what is being required of you in that next step. And I heard something the other day through a coach that I was listening to. And he said that, we're sabotaging our lives all the time. We don't realize it. And it's the moment that we hit something like a challenging emotion, we hit some sort of pain point. And a lot of people, what happens is that we can spiral into that. We can ruminate into it. And as soon as we start to ruminate, then that's when we start to get stuck. That's where we
Mhm.
start to um, sit too long in the low vibration. And that moment is just really a catalyst, like a difficult emotion or a pain point of some sort is a signal that something needs attention. And it's not meant for us to live there. but it's meant to direct us. And if we take the
Mm.
direction and then we can figure out what sort of action that we need to take, then we're moving, right? And we're not sabotaging ourselves by hanging out in this space that's not serving us, because we get into our minds and then our mind starts spinning and then our mind gets cluttered with these thoughts that are not serving us. And emotions too, like emotions can serve us, but if we hang on or we get attached to those feelings, then they disrupt the momentum that maybe we have or that we could have. They disrupt the growth that's available for us. And it's really easy to kind of retract and sit back into it, then really face it and take it on. Like I said today, just taking it by the reins and saying, okay, I'm here right now. This doesn't feel very good. Acknowledge it.
Mhm.
Take the time you might need. It's not, we don't want to suppress either. It's not about suppressing it or ignoring it. Acknowledge it. Take the time that you might need to feel it, and then say, okay, now I'm stepping forward. And we've got to go into, that's where sometimes our business brain can serve us, right? We can go into that more rational place of calm to be guided and directed into uh, our next step.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lesson in that. There's a
Yeah.
lesson in what you said, because I feel a lot of times the sabotaging comes from ourselves.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we're our own enemy. And
Yeah.
so we need to get past that mindset or that belief,
Hmm.
of like, okay, why do I even feel stuck in the first place? But now, how can I replace that disempowering belief with an empowering one? And so it
Right.
actually leads to my next question is, what's a mindset shift that changed everything for you specifically?
Mm. That's a good one. That's a very good question. There have been, I would say, I've gone through many different mindset shifts through my time and growing and coming into greater awareness and consciousness of myself. And um, I'd say the biggest mindset shift that has helped me, especially most recently, is I can choose to approach work or the day or a challenging situation coming from a dysregulated space where I feel the stress, I feel the anxiety, I feel the tension and the overwhelm. That becomes a choice to continue to live in that space. That becomes a choice. Or I could choose to do what I need to do to regulate myself and then approach my work, my day, difficult, challenging situations, people, whatever it is, from a regulated place. And it's a practice. It's not meant to be perfect. We don't have to make it perfect. But that mindset shift changed everything almost instantly for me and how I move through my day. And again, people can get really attached to that stress. They start to identify with it. And if you unravel all of that and you can shift your mind that that is not who I am. That identity is not mine. I've been carrying it. And you can, just as much as you've carried it, you can drop it off. Just like, the suitcases that we pick up. It's a little bit cliche, but we pick up the baggage, or you can put it down and you don't have to keep walking with it.
Mm.
And so that's helped me a lot, especially when I've got many things happening at one time. Um, I enjoy now not feeling this underlying tension underneath everything, like this, my system just not stopping. And it's a little bit of adrenaline too. We can be adrenaline junkies and not mean to, but it feels good when we're like, oh, I got it done. But if we're constantly running on that adrenaline, our nervous system doesn't get a chance to exhale, release, and then regulate. And so it becomes a pattern. And so
Mm.
the mindset shift is to catch your pattern, catch your self-sabotage moments, and then choose. You can make that choice. And not making the choice is still an action, right? Still a choice. Not taking a certain action is still a choice. So
Very
we're
true.
responsible, at the end of the day, we're responsible of with how we are, um, what mindset we're moving through. Yeah.
Yeah, there was two powerful things that you said that really stood out to me. And one of them was, we get to choose, you know, how we get to choose the decision we make. We get to choose the mindset that we
Mm,
have. We get to choose what we believe. But you also mentioned that it's a daily practice. And I
mm,
think that's so key because a lot of people, when they're picking up habits, they don't realize that you have to, almost like you said, disrupt the old pattern in order to
mhm,
create the new one. And so it starts with taking the first step and utilizing that every single day to create that practice. So I love how you mentioned that, and there was a powerful analogy too. I'm not
mm,
sure those watching who picked up on that, but
mhm.
I'll let you rewatch that if you missed it.
Yeah.
So I would love to ask, just because I know this hits home to you, because this
Mhm.
is essentially what you practice and what you provide in your work of creating that mindset shift and practicing it daily. And so I would love to ask, what kind of results do you help people get when they work with you?
We go from the body to the mind. So the body actually can inform the mind. And a lot of times we approach the mind to the body, and then we have people that are walking around life and through the day, very disconnected from brain and body, are just not, not in sync, not in
Mhm.
coherence. So I work with people to come into a coherence with their body, their mind, and their heart. And we do that through movement. We do that through nervous system regulation. We do it through tangible tools to help people get in touch with who they are, their true essence, and to be living out of your own inner authority rather than autopilot. Because we all get programmed, we all have these conditioning that we've grown up with, programs, and there's a time though where it's not serving us, or we realize that's not really what I believe, or how I want to live my life. And so how do we again pattern disrupt that, and then understand who we are, and then live from that space? And then we're making decisions from an authentic place. We're doing the things that we love to do. And essentially, then you're creating a life that you love to live instead of living the life of somebody else's dream or what they told you should do. And it's very liberating. So I really work with people to find their own freedom, independence, and liberation through this work. And I believe it's all available within the body. So the fastest way you can change your state, if you're, as we were just talking about, those difficult emotions or a moment that happens, and then how do we shift that? One powerful way and the fastest way is through your body, getting movement and connecting with your breath. And then by doing this, we start to regulate our nervous system. It's all very interconnected. And when we can embrace that process, it's really incredible what starts to happen and the transformation that people start to experience. And again, how they're able to then have a greater awareness and consciousness of what they're choosing. A lot of times people don't even understand what they're choosing, right? They're like, oh, I didn't realize. They just do something again out of autopilot or mindlessly, out of habit. This is just what I do. I hear a lot of people say, well, that's just how I live. But there's actually more underneath all of that.
Yeah.
And so, as we develop a greater awareness of body and self, then people start to understand their habits more. They understand maybe this job isn't working anymore. I work with a lot of people that are going through transition. So maybe a job is expired, or they're leaving one sort of career and wanting to step into something new. Maybe they are wanting to change location. It's just time to start a new chapter in a new place. And a lot of times these situations can be scary for a lot of people. There's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of unknowns, and not everybody knows how to navigate that. So I work closely with people how to navigate those really difficult decisions that allow for people to again come from that inner space rather than the noise, the distractions, the other people's opinions. How do you let some of that go so that you can make the decision that you know and feel is correct for you, even though it might disappoint others, or they might not fully understand. And sometimes a lot of times actually it helps that when we have support, we need somebody in our corner. And sometimes I find for myself too, the best person I can go to is somebody who's non-biased. They don't know me in all my spaces. They don't know me personally or at work. It's like this special place that I can get some true, feedback or advice without another agenda or opinion kind of in the background. And people don't mean to do that, right? The people that love us, but they might have their own opinions running. They might have their own agendas running, consciously or subconsciously. So in working together, we're able to, unravel these things, kind of dismantle, unpack, and then figure out how do we build from here, either rebuild a foundation or move from the foundation that you've built, and what's your next level, what's your next step.
I love that. I love that because for me, after listening to you, my question is when you're working with people, and I think you kind of said it a little bit, but I feel when you're working with people, you want them to feel seen and feel heard. And you said you create this liberation and this freedom for the
Mhm.
people that you work with, but oftentimes they're people that might not know you yet. So how
Mhm.
do you personally make them feel heard and seen?
Mm. I listen. I think listening is to truly listen, actively listening. Most people don't know how to listen. They're already thinking about what they want to say, and that's just kind of another habit, right? But
True.
if you can really tune in to what somebody's saying and be able to repeat to them what they just said, then
Mhm.
you're really, really listening. So I think genuine listening without distraction, without judgment, is allowing somebody to be seen and heard for what they're sharing and and how they might be feeling.
Yeah, yeah, that's super key. So what would you say one belief you had to break would be to become successful?
Mm, a belief I had to break. Um, I mean, again, there's been many over the years, as you recognize the beliefs that you've been holding on to or living, or let's see. I would say, let me go
Hard to
most.
choose one.
Yeah, it's hard to choose one. Maybe most recently, what I've been reminding myself of, there's a lot of influence out there in the world these days. We're like in an information age, and there's constantly somebody telling you either you're doing it wrong or you need to do it this way. There's all of these opinions coming in, and for me, that can start to be like that becomes overwhelming, and I've got to really work. It takes energy to maintain myself in that. I'm open and willing to try something that worked for somebody else. But at the end of the day, if I also have to, um, I guess this is the belief, what works for other people doesn't have to work for me and may not work for me. And I think I've been trying, there's been points in my career and in my life, I've tried what other people are doing because it worked, right? And we get a lot of that right now in social media, like just do
Right.
it this way and you're going to be successful. And so you do all the things that worked for that person and it doesn't work for you. I
That's
think
so true.
so I've kind of like been harnessing the belief that I had before again, like reigniting that, fueling that belief in me that it's okay if what they did doesn't work for me. It doesn't mean I'm not going to succeed in the way. And so coming into again, well, what does work for me and believing in that. And how do I operate in a way that brings about flow and ease and still drives the success, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. I feel like there's so much on YouTube University. There's so much, like you said, on social media. So it's like, what is the right answer? What is the right strategy? What is the right, framework? But like you said, to
Mhm.
each its own. What might work for you might not work for me, depending on what I'm doing and what I actually need, even in that moment. That's
Mhm.
so true. And I think it changes, as we grow, as we continue to develop into our purpose. I feel like
Mhm.
there's no right or wrong answer. For some people it might be different. And so I love
Mhm.
that you mentioned that. That's super key. For me, I would say, what would be the best way, if there was a way that we can serve you today, what would be the best way?
Oh, I guess for you to serve me. Well, I guess just sharing my message and sharing what I've been working on now. I can, I guess, share a little bit more now. I do B2C. I work with one-on-ones in different capacities. And then now I'm really opening up to working with small teams, small to mid-sized teams to bring these well-being benefits to organizations and to companies. So bringing in programs that go into their benefits. A lot of times companies have, benefit packages, but they leave out a key point, which is wellness and well-being. It's not just covered under healthcare. And actually, when we're taking care of ourselves through our wellness practices, through our well-being practices, we actually reduce healthcare costs.
Mm.
So it actually is a benefit to the companies as well in a financial aspect. And that's what I've been realizing is that as companies are becoming more and more aware that their employee well-being is important and essential to the success of their business, that there's space for this now in our world, and that's an area that I've been expanding into now, along with my one-to-ones and working with people. I do workshops. I have several workshops coming out as well. People can find me online to jump into one of the workshops or the programs that I've got going. But I would say those are the two main parts. And retreats. I have a retreat coming out
That's
in Croatia. Join us in Croatia for 1 week. We're doing a beautiful retreat all around finding that balance again in life where we have the element of play and creativity and moving on your own rhythm and releasing timelines, and at the same time having some healthy practices in there, some soft adventure, but also like enjoy yourself. If you need to sleep in and you're going to miss the early morning yoga class, it's okay. These kinds of things, like to really embody the essence of what it means to actually retreat and not be on your everyday timeline.
Well, I love that you're expanding. And for those that are tuned in watching Amy here today, make sure you get connected with her. Meet her in Croatia if you haven't already signed up, because that sounds like a movement in itself. So I'm super excited to see how that plays out and all the great things that you're doing to serve today. I love this conversation, Amy. Thank you for the wisdom that you brought today. My last question to you would be, how do you stand out as a keynote speaker with the SMO challenge? Because I know you've done your stage one call already, and I
Mhm.
would love for you to share just how you stand out as a keynote speaker with everything that you bring.
In terms of what I speak about, like how does that?
Yeah, so like how do you stand out as a keynote speaker with the SMO? Like with everyone in our community, how are you different, and how are you, with the message that you bring and everything that you're sharing?
Yeah, I think that's a good question because there are a lot of people actually in the nervous system regulation space now that are in the health and wellness industry. So, yeah, I believe we all have a unique strength, gift, talent to bring forward, and there's a room for everybody. There's 9 billion people in the world, and I think that we'll all call the people in that are meant for us, that, we align with. I would say. I do approach it from, what are we prioritizing in life? And again, coming down to choice, awareness, and consciousness, and bringing that into, are you getting through your day just checking off the boxes that it feels good because you got something accomplished?
Mm.
Or are you taking the time to really move into that other list that really holds those important parts of life that are maybe more difficult to get through? It requires a different kind of learning curve, or it requires, it's the mundane things, but they have to be taken care of, and we all have those. But if we neglect that side of our priorities, and distract by the things that are just urgent, the ones that are the easier ones to move through, we could be missing a big portion of our lives there, big opportunities. We could be missing out on uh, different possibilities that could come to us. We might miss a deadline by doing this. So there are different things that if you're not um, meeting this aspect of life, again, it can halt the progress rather than move you forward. And so if we want to keep, there's another thing that I've really tuned into and I heard recently. It's people are happier when they're progressing. People want to progress. We want this. It's a natural part of our human existence, right? So when we become stagnant, going back to your question around being stuck, when we become stagnant, people start to drop, their happiness does decline. It starts to drop. They don't even know why it all of a sudden isn't. But when they stop learning and going into self-development, your self-development is your foundation for your successful business, for your family life, for your relationship. And if you're neglecting your self-development, then you're essentially kind of neglecting very important parts of your other life, right? Because it's a foundation. So I think I bring this other perspective to how do we meet ourselves? How do we regulate ourselves? Nervous system regulation isn't just the holistic tools that we have, which I use them on a regular basis, but there are other ways that we actually regulate our system. And that can be through the micro decisions that we make on an everyday, sometimes moment to moment basis. And that's mindset as well, choosing that mindset to choosing your priorities for the day. So I think I bring that a little bit of a different angle to the wellness space in that
Yeah,
way.
there were a lot of key takeaways there, and something that I got out of that was there's a lesser path and a higher path, and you
Mm,
choose each day which one you're taking based on, like you said before, even the decisions we make, the choices
mhm,
that we make, the
mhm.
practices that we're choosing to implement daily. And so
Yes.
I love how you broke that down for us a little bit more and dove deeper into that. I'm excited to hear you on our next stage. You're going to be a part of our event, our SMO event on coming up. So I'm very excited to see you take it away and to learn more about what you're doing in your space and how you're truly helping. And so thank you for being here with us today, Amy. It was a
Mm,
pleasure. I know that this is just the beginning for you.
thank you for having me. It's always good to chat with you. And again, I just love being here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon and
Okay.
welcome. For those watching, make sure you tune in with Amy. Make sure you get connected with her. And if there was something that she said today that resonated with you, make sure you connect with her outside of this conversation because there is definitely more. And again, if you want to meet her in Croatia, you can definitely do so. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.